Good evening, everybody. This is Gene from NYC, and I'm back with another video. And I'm going to be addressing not Mark Wade. He is not off my radar, but he is not the subject of the video that I'm now recording. But it is, how do I put it, my subject for this video, and I don't plan to spend too long on it. The subject of this video is another egotistical, entitled man who thinks his opinion is actually worth something. So the person I'm talking about and discussing is Bill Maher. As you may or may not know, I think if you're on my channel, you probably know this. Bill Maher has disrespected Stan Lee's legacy. He wrote a blog post which basically amounted to comics are not real literature, and he basically insulted Stan and the comics medium when Stan passed away. I believe it was in November? Stan passed away around November or December of last year. And then Bill most recently lashed out. He flat out lashed out. I saw his nearly 5-minute rant of impotent rage, which is exactly what it was. Impotent rage. Where he goes on about how he mentions several things. In particular, he talks about how 40,000 people dropped him like a bad habit on his Twitter, and he goes on and on and on. And interestingly enough, it's the avowed atheist, right, who doesn't see any value in the Bible. Not just doesn't believe in it, right, but refers to it as a stupid book. He said this in his rant, but he has no issue with quoting this supposed stupid book to support his assertion of that people who read comics or who like comic movies need to grow up. Now, I'm not going to be addressing what he said in the video per se. I think that there's already been plenty of takedown videos made on it. Two I would suggest watching are from Doug Ernst. He did a great video, and I left a comment on that if you wanted to know my thoughts on it, if you haven't seen it already. And there was one by DanFan29. DanFan29. I love her videos just because she's so cute in this very, Genki girl kind of way. But whenever she does skits, it's like she cuts to the heart of the matter in this funny but also true way. It's funny, but it cuts to the heart of the matter and speaks the truth, which I think is humor, at least one of the functions of humor, right? It was the what's the old saying or belief that it was the jester, right, in the court who could sort of speak truth to the king or the queen because of the fact that they were doing it in a humorous manner. So I absolutely love her skits whenever something breaks out in comics and she decides to make a skit about it. So if you haven't seen Doug's video or hers, I suggest that you see it. So what I wanted to address really was how do I put it? Where this impotent rage, where this disrespect for a creative medium comes from. Because that was the way I wanted to approach. I didn't want to just do another takedown video. There's plenty out there. Plenty of people, myself included, left comments basically telling Bill to kick rocks. But I wanted to ask myself, what is it that makes a person so angry over something they have no personal investment in? Why would somebody lash out in this way? Doesn't make any sense. So I thought about it, and I thought about it, and then it came to me in a very, very, very personal way. And what I mean by that is I was on the train. I was just thinking about, my love of video games and whatnot. And I was thinking back just on my history with the type of games that I grew up playing, and just those experiences, right? Playing games with my brother and playing video games with my cousins and stuff like that. And it hit me. It hit me. I was like, I know why I got so angry when I saw Bill Maher's rant. And I think I know why he made the rant in the first place. It's ego. I was Bill Maher at one time in my life. I was that egotistical, too cool for school person who sincerely believed that everything I liked was cool and was adult and was grown up. Just for the virtue of that, I liked it. And I thought that anything that I didn't like, anything that I deemed kiddish, that I deemed babyish, right, was bad. Not just different, not just not to my taste, not just something I don't have a preference for, but bad and uncool. And if you were a member of my family, ask my brother, I was gonna tease you relentlessly for liking baby stuff. Now, what did baby stuff mean to 7-year-old Gene and 15-year-old Gene? Generally speaking, it was Nintendo. Generally speaking, it was Nintendo. It was platforming games. It was stuff like Kirby. It was stuff like Sonic the Hedgehog. Yes, I know, not a Nintendo game, but a platforming game. It was games like Super Mario Brothers. I was that annoying, egotistical, gaming, elitist brat. I would sit and I would watch my brother and my cousin play Super Mario 3 and I would tease them. I wasn't always the nicest person around. I admit it. I'm not proud of this, but I admit it. So then, I thought back on that. I asked myself, what was it? Why did I have such, not just a lack of preference, but such a disdain for Nintendo? Like, I prided myself on as a child for not playing Nintendo games. The first system I had was the NES. The very first games that we had were the Super Mario 3-pack, which was Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, and International Track and Field. But after that, until I got the Wii years and years, decades later, I prided myself on not playing Nintendo games unless I was at my aunt's house. But generally speaking, basically once my extended family, there's always been family issues in my family, and basically once my extended family was out of my life, and there was no more access to Nintendo anything, I prided myself on not having the N64. When the Wii came out, I didn't get the Wii until years and years later, but when it came out, right, I prided myself on basically being the most anti-Nintendo person, the biggest Nintendo hater around, right? I made fun of Super Mario Brothers, I made fun of Kirby's Dream Land, all that stuff. And if it was a platformer, I made fun of that too. And then I looked back on all this, and I asked myself, what was the start of this? Why did I feel a need for years as a kid, as a teenager, and even a bit into my young adulthood? Why did I feel a need to so vehemently hate Nintendo and platforming games and games that I deemed too safe and too kiddish? Because believe me, and this is the reason why I use this game, 7-year-old me would have sooner died than asked for another Nintendo system at home. 15-year-old Jean was not going to play a game like Just Dance. She also wasn't going to play Dance Dance Revolution, but she sure as hell was not going to play this game. And she wasn't going to own a Nintendo anything. So I thought about it and I realized what the source was. Wounded pride, a bruised ego. You see, I never beat the very first Super Mario Brothers game. I don't think my brother has either, or if he did, never told me. But I never beat it. That game frustrated me to no end. The furthest I ever got playing that game was level 8. I think it was level 8-2 or level 8-3, where you have that giant gap that you have to jump, and I could never make it. I could never make it. I could never figure out how to make it. And that experience as a little kid at like 4, 5, maybe 6 years old, right, stuck with me and impacted me so bad that I basically had a hate boner, as crude as that term is, for it for a good chunk of my life. And I think that at its heart, at the heart of things, Bill Maher is in the same place I was at 7 and at 15 and at 19 and at 20. He has a bruised ego, right? He has a wounded pride. I don't know about what or why, but I sincerely think that is at the heart of his lashing out. His ego is bruised. His pride is wounded. Something or someone hurt him, right? And he never got past that. At least I believe. He never got past it. And that he never grew up out of it. Because I eventually, as we can see here, got past it. Now I don't mind owning a Wii. I still have my preferences, right? For example, I would prefer to have a PlayStation 4. I don't have it because when my brother moved out, he took it with him. And I would prefer well, this game is fine. Let me just back that up for a moment. I would prefer a PS4, for example. And I no longer have any hang-ups about playing games such as Just Dance or Dance Dance Revolution or things of that nature. I don't have a big gripe anymore about party games. And, for example, games like, say, Super Smash Brothers, right? If you give me the choice between playing Street Fighter and playing Smash, I'm going to play Street Fighter. Street Fighter's more my speed. But I no longer have the disdain that I once had for a game like Smash, which is very, safe, kiddish to me, fighting game. But I realize now, being an adult, that it's not bad for being that way. It's different. It doesn't appeal to me, but that in and of itself doesn't make it bad or uncool or anything else. I know people now who play Street Fighter and who play Smash, and they enjoy them for totally different reasons. Just like in comics, you can have people, or just in general, right? You don't have to have this either or binary, right? Where you have to, choose one or the other. You can like classic rock and you can like classical music. You can like Shakespeare and you can like comics. You can like, for example, Bram Stoker's Dracula and you can like Twilight. It's all on you. You don't have to choose. Someone like Bill Maher, someone like my younger self, demands that you choose. And that demand comes from egotism. And that egotism comes from a bruised ego and wounded pride. So that's what I think is ultimately stemming his reaction. He isn't the first person to have this sort of reaction. Although it wasn't to comics, I remember when Roger Ebert came out with a blog post or an article where he was talking about how video games could never be art. I believe this happened when I was in either late teens or early 20s, because I remember I was either in high school or in college when he did that. I'd have to look up the exact dates, but I know it was definitely in my youth. And I went to his blog and I respectfully told him, "You're wrong." The difference is, Roger Ebert, after getting a flood of responses, some respectful, some not, while he did not back down from his claim, right, he also admitted that he didn't understand video games. He didn't understand what a gamer likes about video games or how video games could be art, right? So he was still saying, well, I don't think it's a artistic medium, or I don't think. So anyway, while Ebert wasn't willing to admit he was wrong, he was willing to admit that he didn't understand, that he didn't get it, which I think was the best response we were going to get out of him, which is fine, right? I don't really get Bill Maher and his humor, right? But it is what it is. So anyway, the point of this video is just to explain where I think it comes from, where his rant, what is truly fueling it. And that, do some self-examination, because none of us are immune to this, right? None of us are immune to being like a Bill Maher or a Roger Ebert towards something that we don't like. And again, and when I say I don't like, I don't mean, for example, something you dislike because it is actually bad, right? For example, I don't like, although I have to do a review on it, I don't like Goddess Mode, for example, because it is a legitimately bad comic, right? The dialogue is awful. There's no plot. There's no premise. It's just ranting. It is a bad book. I don't dislike it because it's not for me. I dislike it because it's bad. So I'm not talking about things that you dislike because they are actually not good. I mean things that you dislike simply because you don't have a preference for it, right? That could be a food. It could be a flavor. It could be a sport. It could be anything. So I think that we should all try to avoid being Bill Maher, or avoid being myself in my childhood and part of my young adulthood, and realize that just because something is not to our taste doesn't mean it's bad. We don't have to understand why other people like it. We just have to respect the fact that other people like it. For example, I don't understand country music the first. I don't understand country music. I don't understand the appeal. And I don't understand the appeal of Southern rock. But there are people out there who like it. And I like to believe that I am humble enough to accept the fact that there are people who like it. I don't get it. They do. And just let them be. If you like Leanne Rimes or Luke Bryan or whoever the heck is a big country star today, awesome. I'm going to stick with my Guns N' Roses. But if you like that stuff, good on you. That's pretty much it. That's all I pretty much have to say. This got longer than I thought on all my videos. Anyway, I promise you, I will sooner or later get back to reviewing comics. I just have a few more comic related but not comic review stuff that I want to make videos about, and then I will do comic reviews. The first two will be Goddess Mode, which I've been delaying on, I admit it, and the, Miss Marvel 36 or 37, the one with the group cover, the I Am Miss Marvel cover, and the absolutely terrible story inside. Anyhow, this is Gene from New York City, and I wish you a good night, and I will see you in the next video.